Assalamu alaikum and good evening everyone. Here is Nimra Maheen, your host and the CEO of the Resuscitators. As you all know that the Resuscitators' vision is to provide an authentic and legitimate knowledge to all the healthcare professionals via our exclusive webinars, workshops, and our awareness campaigns. So in this record, we arranged this webinar so you all got to learn about that worthy topic. Our today's topic is celiac disease and what will be the important tricks you will use in your clinical practice. Like you can learn about nutrition therapy, its etiology, risk factors, pathophysiology, and MNT. And I am glad to announce that my respected and sweetest ma'am, again, Dr. Yeliz Seren, joined us specially from Turkey to discuss about celiac disease. She has done masters in human nutrition and dietetics, along with she has done PhD in human nutrition and dietetics from Gazi University, Faculty of Health Sciences, Department of Human Nutrition and Dietetics, and she is also a research fellow at Faculty of Health Sciences, Department of Nutrition at Ankara, Turkey. Also, she is working as a clinical nutritionist and dietetic consultant at Pediatric Gastroenterology in Gazi University Medical School Hospital. Allah be pleased to you, ma'am. MashaAllah. Now time is yours. You can start your lecture and bless us with your exclusive knowledge. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. You are
okay.
audible.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind invitation, and I am very happy for attend this meeting again. And I really very happy sharing with my knowledge and experiments with you and with my colleagues. And today also there's a very special person among us, and he is a doyen in Europe in Celiac, Dr. Anon. I would like to say hello and thank you who advised my name to the doctor. Okay. Thank you very much for your kind introduction also. And today I would like to explain what is the most important tricks for clinical practice for this celiac. It is a very special group for us, for dietitian, because the only treatment today okay. Because there's very important, there is only one treatment today for the patient. The only treatment is diet. And I am not only a dietitian who give to the patients the words file and writing only the foods that can they allow to the patients or forbidden foods. I am a dietitian with a patient, with a love for celiac children. I am really very willing to and love to work with them. This group is very special for me, and I try to explain the important tricks for these groups. Firstly, celiac disease is roughly a gluten-related disorder. And for the understanding the gluten association with this disorder, you should understand that what is the gluten. In order to understand the gluten, we must first understand the classification of the grains and their protein structure. Firstly, the botanical classification of cereal is, as usual, there's a big family. And the most dangerous cereal for the celiac patient is belong to triticale trip, and the rye, wheat, and barley is the most important gluten sources in this family. And I want to give some information, a little information about the oats, because in the last 5 or 10 years, there's some poor gluten-free oats, and some guidelines in the Europe or in Australia give a law to use this grain in gluten-free diet plan for the patients. But the team should decide if they can use it or not. Please, if you give some information about it, about the oats, you should be sure it is really very, very poor oat, and there isn't any cross-contamination with other cereals. So I want to give some tricks. If you advise this grain, you should read some guidelines and you should aware of the food label for the advising this grain. And cereal proteins mainly divided 4 main groups: albumin, globulin, prolamine, and glutenin. This is a classification, a standard classification, and according to based on according to solubility. The most important thing I want to pay attention these tricks for you. Albumin and globulin, it is a metabolic proteins in the plant. Prolamine and glutenin, storage proteins that from the gluten complex. The gluten complex consists from prolamine and glutenin structures, and these are responsible for the gluten-related disease. For example, distribution of proteins according to solubility classes. There was 4 protein in the cereal, for example, albumin, globulin, prolamine, and glutenin. And you see the prolamine contact in the cereals, in different cereals. And the name of prolamine, it differs from the one cereal to another. For the most known prolamine in the literature, the general is gliadin, because weight consumption is more usual than other. So every literature, in the literature, you can come across with the gliadin, but gliadin is one of the prolamine, okay? And I want to say very important tricks, information. There is some look at in weight and rye. There is the prolamine and glutenin is approximately equal, and if we in this cereal, the gluten complex consists very easily because of equal ratio is very important. Rices look very low prolamine contact and very high glutenin content, but it is not enough for the gluten complex. Every cereal has these proteins, but the ratio is protein ratio for the prolamine glutenin is important for the make a gluten complex. It is very important. And the most important source of gluten is weight, and look approximately 50-50, and gliadin and glutenin structure in this. Celiac disease is autoimmune disease and triggered by ingestion of gluten. And the gluten sources, I told which cereal has very, very high gluten, first wheat and barley and rye. And there is a genetically susceptible individuals, not necessary, but it is confirmed in the literature. These haplotypes, these genetical factors is very important, have a very important role for the celiac disease development. And the gluten leading to chronic inflammation in the small bowel mucosa. So this introduction in this patient led to some autoimmune reaction in the body. And there is some biomarkers that's very important with celiac disease, autoantigenity. One of them, tissue transglutaminase, is very important. And the other one, there's a villus atrophy in the intestinal bowel mucosa. And this atrophy affects the food absorption from the intestinal bowel. And if the food absorption in fluid in the body, we couldn't take good minerals and vitamins for the functional function of our bodies. So the main clinical characteristic for the children is stop the childhood development for the, for example, for the body weight and development, childhood growth velocity is started to decreasing in the children. So it is very important for the dietitian. And I said before, genetic predisposition is very important, and environmental triggers is one of the important trick for us is the diet, because for the celiac patients, these proteins is very toxic for the intestinal for the immune system, because the body understands these toxic proteins like very foreign for the person, and they started to fight with them, with these proteins. So we give some autoimmune response to these proteins. And there's very important, the other important tips, in normal patients, they can think gluten sensitivity or food allergy is equal to the celiac disease, but these are very different from each other. The celiac disease under the autoimmune disease. Gluten sensitivity, not autoimmune, not allergic, and food allergy is an allergic reaction. It is immunoglobulin E mediated or non-immunoglobulin A mediated. It is very different from each other. The other things, and the main differences between the celiac disease and gluten sensitivity and weight allergy is, look, there's a villus atrophy in duodenum, in small bowel, in the intestinal passage. There is atrophy, but in the others, no. Look at the genetic background is mostly these haplotypes belong to celiac disease, but in the others, not too much. And the pathogenic mechanisms is very different from each other, and antibodies in the serum is different from each other. So there's this histology very important for the determination if the patient has celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. There's a Marsh classification for it, and Marsh 3 and up, 3, 4, 5 is confirmed to the diagnosis, and in the others, as you see, there is only 2 till 2. So the histology of the duodenal mucosa is very important for understanding if patient has celiac disease or not. And you see the villus in normal patients, and this is very active villus. They absorb the gluten and foods or from the intestinal mucosa, and in celiac patients, there is very shortened and flattened. So they couldn't, the absorption of the food is not very good. So there's some nutritional deficiency in the patients. And very awareness in the world started to increase by from the past to today, and I think for the future, because approximately in you can see the colors, and red colors and the dark red colors, and orange is very important area for the celiac patients, also for celiac awareness. But it is not enough. We think there's in some countries, for example, African countries or less developed countries, there is some lack of the awareness about the celiac diagnosis. If they started to understand the mechanism and clinical presentation of the patients, they start to diagnose more celiac patients in the world. And in Turkey today, there is 40,000. It is that data from the Health Ministry web page, and approximately 4,000 patients today. We try to give medical support in the clinicals. As I said before, today the only treatment for the celiac disease, strict gluten-free diet, and it should be lifelong, because today, and you see some symbols that you can see in the food labels or in some presentations. It is not there is not general symbol for the countries, and every country choose their symbols, and you see these for the Turkey, and the colors and the logo is very important and create for the every country. And a strict gluten-free diet means that daily intake of gluten should be less than 20 milligrams. It is very minor. This corresponds to around 100 of a slice of bread. When you think the Western population ingests about gluten, it's factor 1,000 high, because it corresponded 20,000 milligrams in normal diet, in Western normal diet. And you should 1,000 less advice to them. In gluten-free diet, mainly you not allowed the weights and derivatives foods, rye, barley, triticale, kamut, malt, spelt, semolina, and as you see, there's a lot of cereals, pseudo cereals, vegetables, fruits, plant foods, oils, and milk and derivatives, fish, egg, butter. There's a lot of options. We couldn't eat some weights derivatives foods like, yes, I know. Hello everyone again. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I try to explain. Okay. And the most important thing is there's a very common nutrient deficiency in the celiac patients at diagnosis, especially energy protein deficiency, fiber, iron, calcium, vitamin D, vitamin B12 is very important also for the childhood development, and we should follow up a whole life these nutrients for the celiac patients. And there's some problems in the Turkey also, in the all over the world. There's some difficulties related to gluten-free diets. One of the most important things, high cost gluten-free products, low availability of the gluten-free products, and eating outside home, restaurants, social events, family, friends, houses is very important areas. Lack of the gluten-free alternatives or informations in public places, labeling issues, inadequate information, education about the celiac patients among the general population, because one of the patients, when you say I have a celiac disease, all the patients, most of the people, if has no knowledge about celiac patients, they like it is a like cancer or like some dangerous disease. So we should, very important, the public awareness about the gluten-free diet and celiac disease also. And gluten contamination also very important problem for the celiac patients. In Turkey, I had a research about what is the most difficulties related gluten-free diet, and one of them social burning, isolation, poor taste, eating outside of the home, and high cost of the gluten-free products is the main tricks in my country, for my country. In Turkey, and I think in the Pakistan also is equal, the food is very important. Foods like we celebrate all the good events with foods. The mom show her love to the children with foods also. Celebration, all the celebration contains foods. So the children, when we say you should be aware of the cross contamination, you have to strict follow up the gluten-free diet, he feels social isolation. Or to prevent the social isolation, you should educate their family, their school environment, and you can inform the teachers if they have some events in the school. inform the mothers, the parents of the celiac patients' mothers, parents before the illness, because if they celebrate a birthday, maybe the parents prepare some birthday cake for gluten-free birthday cake for their children. So it is very important tricks because the children may forget what you told, but they never forget what they feel. So it is really very important. The other important is the Turkish cuisine is very, very famous, I think, in the world also, and local foods. And we have a lot of delicious foods that contain gluten. And when they say to them, you from now you should feed gluten-free diet, they start to feel social burden. And it is also very important. And the other important things, it differs from the one country to other, but in my country, in Turkey, the government gives financial support to the celiac patients. For example, so for the between 0 and 5 years old, it is $8.50 for the celiac patients. For the 5 and 15 years old, it's corresponding to $12, and this support. And for the 15 and over, it's $12 give financial support, but it's very, very not enough for the patients. Net minimum wage in Turkey is $300, and when you see the profile, it's really very, very bad because they couldn't buy very celiac products for their own choices. They only buy the principal, the main needed of them from the local markets. I want to give a very important example. I searched 2 foods from the internet. It is a pasta and gluten-free pasta and gluten-free bread. And in the same mark, in the same brand, it is a gluten pasta and gluten bread. When you see the daily cost, the monthly cost, it is $144 for the gluten-free, only for 2 products, for 2 gluten-free products. And if the patient's children, they want to some other options, other market foods also. They don't want both of them only. They want some crackers, some biscuits also, and it's very social burden for them. And look at the monthly cost for the gluten-containing food in my country, $20, 5 times higher from normal foods, and the net minimum wage $300. It is really very important for the factor that affect the sustainability to the diet in my country. It is very important. And the other things, we should develop some strategies for the prevent the difficulties related to gluten-free diet. And one of them, increasing awareness in the public, in the schools, in the society, in the family is very important. Regular consultation with a nutritionist is very important. Education, nutrition education, especially for the food labeling, is very important. Gluten-free workshops, gluten-free development, some the gluten-free cooking classes is very important also. Social support from the family, friends, or societies is very important also. Governmental actions very important, because my country give some financial support, but it's very low. We try to increase the amount of the support with our struggle, also very important. And we can collaborate with the food industry for the develop the gluten-free test, also very important, I think. And we have a lot of work to do. And sorry, I couldn't, yes. In clinical practice, the follow-up is very important, and every follow-up, early appointment, you should check anthropometry of children, you give a nutritional education, and you should check biochemical parameters, especially tissue transglutaminase is very important. And dietitian approach is according to patients. In my clinical practice, I see all the patients at diagnosis, at the first, in the beginning of the diagnosis, I give education every month. And when I decided to, yes, the patient understands the gluten-free diet principles, I try to, and their biochemical parameters is good, and anthropometry is good, and then I try to follow up them in every 3 months. But it depends on the patients. If their biochemical parameters is not good, the anthropometry is very bad, their height is low and weight is very, very low, we should give more education. We should understand the patient, the environment of the patient. We should solve the problems. It needs more appointment for the patients. Label reading is very important for the understand if the products contain gluten or not, and look in the modified food starch, soya sauce, hydrolyzed vegetable protein. If these salad dressing, if they contain these products in the food label, even don't write gluten-free or don't have any symbol gluten-free, they should avoid from them, because it could be contain gluten, hiding gluten in these products. Dietitian always develop gluten-free recipes. It is very, very important for the patients. They really feel very happy because the pasta, for example, the pasta is a normal food for us, but for them, it is a dream. So for the cakes, for the other, all the gluten-free, gluten-containing foods, we should develop alternatives, gluten-free alternative for the patient, because the main task is that our task is very important for this. And in my country, the celiac societies share some gluten-free brands and recipes from their own webpage. But very important thing, keep in touch with them and control their posts, because there's some lack of information or not true information, false information in the post. We can keep in touch with them. And in Ankara, I also keep in touch the leader of the society, and we share our knowledge with them, scientific knowledge also. And I always check their web page, and it's very important, I think. And there is a lot of gluten-free grain choices, and we develop some gluten-free recipes from all of the grain choices. It could be very good options for the local foods also. You can use all the options also for their patients. And in my country, there is some surprise for me. One father developed a gluten-free barcode reader. The idea is perfect, but it needs some validation. Education is very important also in my country. The parents, because the school, everywhere I can some important knowledge about the gluten-free diet. It's one of the meeting between my team, my parents' team. It's very important. And there is a guideline for the teachers in my country. I also one of this team. The teachers are the most important stakeholders of the society. So we send this guideline to the school counselors, and we also keep in touch with the teachers for the social school environment of the celiac patients. And it is very also, I think, and you can hear these questions from the patients. Does celiac get better after dieting for a while? If you properly, you should. When I hear this question, I tell to them, you should adaptation, and you should adapt to the gluten-free diet very strictly. If in the future develop some other drugs or enzymes or new cure for the celiac disease, I will advise to them. But now the most important thing is gluten-free diet. What happens if break my diet? They always ask, and because it is very important, this gluten in the celiac patients, the gluten response is autoimmune reactions. They trigger autoimmune reactions. So maybe if they don't follow up the gluten-free diet, they trigger the other autoimmune disease also. So it is really very important. Is everything okay? May I consume gluten-containing foods a little, a bit, or time, or seldom? And I said never, because if you give a little permission to them, they always, they every time want to the normal foods, especially children. So we should be strict for the patients, unfortunately, but we should. Maybe some they don't adapt to gluten-free diet. Some seldom they eat gluten-containing foods. And when we check the biochemical parameters, they don't. They may not. We may not see another problems in the biochemical parameters. But they say, I am not celiac. No, you are a celiac patient. If you eat some gluten-containing foods, not too much, but by time to time, from time to time, and you can affect the biochemical, may not affect biochemical parameters, but you affect intestinal mucosa. And we don't have, when you come to the appointment, we don't do the patient's colonoscopy, endoscopy every time. For this reason, we try to explain that if you have no problem in biochemical parameters, maybe you have problems in intestinal system, and we don't know now. So you should in a little, in very 50 milligrams also trigger the autoimmune reaction, and it is also very important. So they should stick the gluten-free diet. Herbal therapy is not cure for the celiac patients, and the other things I also have type 1 diabetes because I am celiac. It's a very important question from them because type 1 diabetes mellitus is has same genetic predispositions with the celiac, and it is the most prevalent comorbid disease for the celiac. And maybe if they don't adopt the gluten-free diet, they start to autoimmune reactions in the body and maybe trigger type 1 diabetes. And the mothers and fathers afraid from the cancer for the future. And I say to them, if you properly adapt to the gluten-free diet, the risk equal for the normal patients, for normal persons. And I think it is the last slide for us. And thank you for your attention, for your invitation, and thank you for all the participations. Is there any questions for me?
If you want to ask any question, you can ask. After that, we will wind up the meeting.
Is there any questions or contributions? I hope I can explain the principle of the gluten-free diet and the importance of the gluten-free diet for the patients and for my colleagues also. I hope it could be useful for this presentation, useful for you.
Okay. How DQ2 and DQ8 will affect in this disease? You tell
Sorry?
about how DQ2 and DQ8, you will tell about a positive HLA haplotype.
How?
Positive HLA haplotype. You will tell us about this. How they
Positivity.
can play a role in celiac disease. Yes.
Okay. And I understand how you decided the positivity for the celiac patients, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Firstly, the most important thing, the history of the patients. If they eat, if in the children there is height and weight gain is started to stop, and it is very important point for the thing. And it is not enough. Today, even no reason, for example, chronic anemia, you can use pills, iron pills, iron medicines. When you give up the iron pills, they started to decrease your iron levels. So it is also another clinical appointment for us. But the diagnosis is the serological tests, tissue transglutaminase, and bioscopy endoscopy is very important milestones for the determination of celiac disease. But clinical presentation for the children is stop of weight gain and height and growth velocity. It is the most trick for us.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any pharmacotherapy for this, or any supplement could be used?
Unfortunately, no. But there is some research about it. Some research, some projects. But now the only treatment is gluten-free diet. But there is some studies about pharmacological approach or other microbiota transplantation, for example. But now the validated treatment cure is only gluten-free diet.
Yeliz, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Celiac is all about immune response. Celiac disease is caused by hyperactivation of immune system. And when we use the immunosuppressant therapy, it would be helpful for the patient. May use corticosteroids, steroids for the suppression of the immune system. Some physicians also recommend corticosteroids and steroids for the suppression of the immune system.
Yeah, very good question.
Patient fell victim of the other diseases like bacterial infection and viral infection due to immune system.
Okay, very good question. Thank you for your good question. In some days, in these days, there's some very important interest with gluten-free diet, not only for the celiac patients, for the decrease of the weight. It's a very popular diet. For example, for the other immune-related disease, inflammatory bowel disease, for the there's some approach for the knowing or understanding what if gluten-free diet a good cure options for these patients or for the normal persons. But in the literature, in our knowledge now, these products only for the gluten trigger disorders, especially for the celiac patients, because when you eliminate gluten from the foods, you put substitutes to the foods for the ketchup, the same taste. You put sugar, you put oil, much oil, low fiber, because the main fiber resource in the diet is cereals, and the other cereals not equal with according to fiber. So these products need to develop also, not good. Only for celiac patients very good, but in the other these products need to develop because higher salt, there is some nutritional deficiency in these products. For example, fiber deficiency, and they contain higher salt, sugar, and oil. And it is not good for the normal patients or other disease. Because for the inflammatory bowel disease, for example, it is not validated cure for them. For example, for autism also, they gluten and casein-free diet they use, but it is not equal. And Dr. Talha Ahmet, it is not carbohydrate malabsorption. It is very different because it is corresponding to lactose intolerance. It is very different. Lactose is a carbohydrate, and carbohydrate malabsorption is corresponding to lactose intolerance. It is not equal. Celiac is a response, autoimmune response for in small bowel mucosa. It is very different from each other, not malabsorption. It is autoimmune disease.
In celiac, we recommend high sugar, high oil, and low fiber diet.
Yeah.
And the patient may fall victim of IBS or Crohn or constipation.
Maybe. I advise to the patients when they come to a dietitian visit or appointment, I check all the gastrointestinal problems. I always check. Have you any constipation? Have you any diarrhea? Have you any gastrointestinal problems? If they have some constipation, we advise we reorder their diet plan, because as you know, the fiber sources in the diet, not only wheat, also vegetables, also fruits, also lentils. So we try to develop some food choices and reorder to diet plan frequency, fiber-rich foods. We add to their daily diet plan. And if the constipation is not solved, I consult to their doctor and write a note for the patients. I reorder this patient diet plan, and I put some fiber-rich foods in diet, and the patient eats properly, all of them. And even for this strategy not work very well, the doctors start to a medicine for the constipation for the patient. So the working with team is very important. With doctor also.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Oh, ma'am, it's a great pleasure to have you again. You again gives us such an exclusive webinar. I'm very happy for you. And also you are looking so cute today. Thank you so
very much for your kind invitation, for all the participations, for the interest, for the attention. I am very happy, and I would like to meet in one meeting, maybe in Turkey, in another countries. I am very happy also knowing.
Inshallah, ma'am. Soon.
Inshallah.
We would love to hear you again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye. Thank you very much. It is estimated from the cross-contamination between 5 and 20 milligram of the gluten every day on average intake by the gluten patients, because of the unexpected situation. For example, in the celebrations, also there isn't any separate area for the preparation gluten-free foods, and the transporting, preparing, storage and processing foods also can contain in the main gluten-free brand. For example, one brand industry produce rice and pasta in the same factory. So it is also very important for the being aware of. Sorry. I couldn't. Oh, sorry. And there's an important clinical trial. What is the safe gluten there's sold for the patients with celiac disease? And it is estimated 15 milligram gluten causes serious damage to intestine. And as I said before, it is estimated that patients who are strictly adherent to gluten-free diets also can take between 5 and 15 milligrams gluten because of the cross-contamination. And what is the dietitian's responsibility for the celiac patients? The doctor in the clinical practice diagnose it. They examine the patient. They look at the biochemical results, and they do endoscopy, biopsy for the patients, and they determine if the person has celiac disease or not. But after that, if patient has a celiac disease, the doctor said you should eat gluten-free meals, gluten-free foods. And after this advice, they started to write appointment after 3 months for the check the transglutaminase tissue transglutaminase test is starting to low or not, but for dietitian the follow-up is whole life, because foods are very important requirements in the patient's life. So we should aware of all the stages, all the age stages, because when our requirements when I was child baby is different. When we start in the school is very different requirements, and when we get elderly we come across with different problems related with sustainable to the gluten-free diet. So we should always give solve the problems with the patients. We always follow up from the clinic and listen to very carefully, and we should solve food related problems for the raising adaptation of the gluten-free diet. It's very important. If we give only diet a word in the word fight, it is not work, because the real life is very, very different, and the road is long, and we have a lot of work to do. In Turkey, there's some gluten-free list, but it is not enough. What should our roadmap be? Main tricks in clinical practice. In the beginning, it is very important to determine the nutritional status of the patients. For this reason, please say to your patients food record consumption. They write at least 3 days. What 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 time that eats, how much that they eat, and how many times they eat in a day. Please record. Then it is very important for the determinate the daily calorie and energy intake of the patients. If it is not very enough, it is not enough, you should include this patient to the nutrition education program. For the if maybe some enteral products, if the patient has malnutrition, we can support with enteral products, enteral nutrition to the patients. So it is very important. The other important tips, especially for the children, evaluation the anthropometric measurements is very important, because when they started the gluten-free diet, the recovery is very, very quick and very important. If they follow up the diet very strictly, you see the development, the recovery very anthropometric, child anthropometric development also. They start to gain weight, and their growth velocity started to increase. It's very important. And the evaluation of biochemical parameters is very important. It's one of the important parameters for the celiac disease and for the determine if the patient follow up the gluten-free diet is tissue transglutaminase. If the patient it is a normal range between 0 and 10. In different it started to in the beginning of the diagnosis, it is very high. For example, 500, 600 maybe. And when they started to the diet, the tissue transglutaminase started to decrease. And approximately after 6 months, we expect this parameter in the normal range. We expect to the decrease in a normal range. If started to these parameters between 500 and 600 after 6 months, even after 6 months, we think about she or he not very adapt to the gluten-free diet. So we started to ask some questions. Why you couldn't adapt, or you couldn't follow your diet? What is the problems in the school, in your family, or in your own emotional problems? And when we decided the main problems, we try to solve together with the children. And very important, writing a proper and sustainable diet, because not every income equal in the world. So in the patients, in the family, between family. So you should, when you take history from the patients, please ask their income, how many people live in the same house, and how they share for the foods, how separate money for the foods, and what is the nutritional behaviors, how is your general food prefers. It's a very important question, because if you don't understand this